What's up, guys? It's Gootecks, and today we're launching a brand new podcast series. We're going to see how this goes. It's a podcast about content. I get a lot of questions from a lot of different people about how to get started with content, whether it's gaming or streaming or YouTube or Instagram or, in this instance, music. And so I thought it might be useful for a lot of people who are also trying to get started or knee deep in the content struggle, as I have been for the past, 10, what year is it? Don't get old. For the past 12 years. I thought it might be useful to share a lot of the stuff that I've kind of learned along the way. And so this first episode is with an old friend of mine, Zaid Tabani. You may remember him for some of his early work, if you're a fighting game person that was around back in 2010. He did the intro for the Evo 2010 finals, and he's been chugging along making music for the past 7 years ever since then. And so I chatted with him a couple weeks ago, and we talk a lot about music and marketing, and I hope that you find this useful. So send me or post a comment or hit me on Twitter and let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. I'll see you later. All right, what's up, guys? I'm here with Zaid Tabani, and I know him as Zaid Tabani, but you may know him as Red Rapper. And tell us a little bit why you came down to the six-figure artist workshop.
Well, hi, first of all, but I recently graduated Berklee College of Music in May. Went there for 4 years after doing stuff in the fighting game community for a while, doing stuff for Evo, stuff for Capcom commercials and here and there.
Getting your music in commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
For gaming.
Gaming commercials. I'd done trailers for video game events and everything. And me going to Berklee, a lot of the fighting game work and a lot of my thing for that had kind of dried up a little bit. And I wanted to get back more into the music side of things and talk about stuff that I wanted to do. And so I left California for Boston to go to Berklee, and a lot of things changed for me. The way I saw music, the way I worked through music, the way I saw myself as an entrepreneur more so than somebody, I need to get a record deal, I need to do this, I need to do that. And so coming back, I wanted to, it seemed like a nice community of people to kind of bounce ideas off of. I know I've heard the stories about, you and started Cross Counter and with Mike and everything, and just to relay some ideas about how to move forward, how to make a fan base stick, as opposed to I interest somebody, and then they're like, oh, this is great, but I'm not activist about pursuing it. Does that make sense? Pursuing this content, you show them content that they're interested in, but they're not super do you kind of see what I'm saying? They're they're not lukewarm about it. They're excited about it, but there's nothing actively pushing them to constantly pursue more new content from you. So I wanted to see how to convert, people who are interested more into people who will come to shows, people who will, actively look at my pages, my Instagram and my Spotify and all that. If that makes sense, or am I being vague?
No. You're after doing commercials and going to Berklee, you have a different mindset, and now that you're back living in Southern California, you're trying to figure out how to get people more excited, more than lukewarm about your content, which in this case is music.
Yeah, I think people do get excited when they from what I've seen, people do get excited when they see me live, right? And I think the biggest issue is look at there's two models you can do for music in general, right? You can have the idea of all right, you're gonna hit trending songs, right? Like this kind of like pop trend kind of like line that's going up and down, right? And submit to blogs through Submit Hub, right? And try to market that way and base all of your hopes on networking and a label getting you everywhere you need to be. Or you could do the Chance the Rapper thing, which is try to throw your own shows, try to build your own fan base from the ground up. You know, you're not beholden to anybody, but it's a lot more work, and you don't have to worry about having to do everything a label's going to tell you to do, because music's kind of like the Wild West now. Everybody has different styles. Like Spotify is so ubiquitous, and Apple Music is. Anybody can access any type of song they want. So my thing was, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I want to go the Chance the Rapper route and try to build my own type of fan base from that, how do I make it so that you have credibility when somebody sees you? With a label, you have instant credibility. Oh my God, this guy's on a label, right? You know, I mean, it may not seem that way, but like if you're at a show and the show's thrown by Atlantic Records, oh, it's Atlantic Records throwing this show. If this show is like an underground hip hop show and stuff like that, even if you're phenomenal, getting people through the door is very difficult in general. Does that make sense?
What you're saying is that having a label gives you more credibility. You feel like having a label gives you more credibility, but the problem with having the label is that then you're having to do what the label says, and you're arguably not in control of your own destiny.
Kind of, yeah. You're also playing odds when you're trying to shop to a label too. You're playing odds of like, okay, well, I have to make a song like this. I have to make like this type of song like 3 or 4 different times, right? I have to impress these people in order for anybody to hear this. I have to do things a certain way in order for any of my content to get out, right? Whereas the Chance the Rapper model is, well, you don't have to impress these people in order for your content to get out. You can spend all your time that you would like investing into like, oh, let me pitch it to this blog and this blog and this blog, into doing your own thing and finding people on your own who would love your music and showcasing it to them, in order to gain and grow your fan base organically.
Makes sense. Okay.
I feel like I'm being confusing in some way. If I am, tell me.
No, I mean, you're not being confused. It's not confusing. I'm just thinking about it like I get what you're saying about the labels and not having it and whatnot. But I'm not convinced that, like, I think you're taking like a real like industry-minded approach to it.
Yeah.
Because maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe for other musicians and people who are familiar with, or people that are involved in the music industry, then yeah, maybe that matters.
Right.
Like being on a label or whatever.
Gotcha.
But like,
I don't think it. I'll give you an example. So let me clarify. So like, I do this thing called random street raps for my Instagram and everything like that. The way I gain Instagram followers, the way I try to get people to shows, I have a little boombox. I go out on the street and I'll approach people and I'll rap to them, right? And my thing is, if I impress you, you follow me. If I don't, you can be like, fuck off, don't talk to me anymore, right? And but 90% of the time when I approach, people say yes. You know, like 90% of those people, 90% of those people will follow me, and 25% of those people who follow me are like really excited to follow me and want to go to a show within a week, right? And they're like, oh, send me music, da da da. You know, I can't wait to hear from this, right? And like that, I'm saying like, okay, so of that, like clearly when I'm approaching somebody and I'm showing them this music, they're clearly excited to hear it in the moment. They're clearly very active and like, oh man, yeah, I want to be. I know when somebody's like lukewarm about it, they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll follow you. They're not going to check it, right? But if they're like, oh man, do you have more stuff? Do you have a Spotify? Do you have this? That means they're actively engaged, right?
Yeah.
And so my thing is, how do I get those people to 100% check it? I mean, you can't hold a gun to their head and do it. But converting those people into tickets through the door is the biggest. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, there's clearly an interest there in the product. Somebody's walked into, if I have a mattress store, somebody's walked into my mattress store and is like, I want to buy something, right? How do you close that sale? I've clearly gotten you interested in it. I send you music. You say you like it. There's a show this day, right? I feel like, especially in, like you were talking earlier about a 10-second Snapchat world where everybody can kind of blaze around in California and not really do anything or look for better plans, it's very easy to ignore a show, for an underground artist or an independent artist, right? My thing is how you get people through the door after you've gotten them interested from something like that.
Well, there's a couple of different ways to go about it. Specifically when it comes to what you're doing with Instagram, is I would say that Instagram is not, it's not that Instagram is not important or relevant, it's just not very good, in my opinion, for being able to follow up with people automatically.
Right.
So I would ask them for Instagram, to follow you on Instagram first, but I would also ask for their email address.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just have it, you have like a tablet or something and they just pop it in, and then you could load those emails into MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or something. Right. And then number one, you have a growing mailing list of people that you can reach out to whenever. Mm-hmm. And also you can set up what's called an autoresponder, so that way once they sign up, they get like a welcome email, but then they also get a sequence, an automated sequence that could be, let's say, here's the welcome email, which contains like a free download to whatever, or here's links to all my stuff. And then like a couple days later, it sends them an automatic email that says, hey, it was nice to meet you the other day. Mm-hmm. Like, let me know if you got a chance to check out any of the stuff.
All right.
And then like a week after that, it's like, oh, hey, just touching base with you. Like, here's a new song that I put up, or here's a new video from a show.
Right.
And so you can create an infinite number of emails like that kind of just touch base with all these people automatically, individually over a long period of time. And right. There's like tons of material on email marketing and autoresponders and stuff, but essentially the idea is to build the relationship slowly over time and doing by delivering value to them, in this case, your music or videos or whatever. Right. With like super soft sells, like every now and then, like, oh, here's, by the way,
right.
I'm playing, or here's like a couple dates like later.
Yeah.
And then once you have something that's, your show is like announced or whatever, it's a month away or whatever, yeah. Now you can send like the real active email saying, hey, good news, like the next show or shows is like this place, click here to buy tickets.
Gotcha, yeah.
So it's number one, it's mostly automated once you set it up. And number two, it's much more, you can see the effectiveness of each email because you'll see the open rate, the clicks, and whatever.
So you can see the open rate overall. Okay, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the problem with Instagram, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and any other social media platform, is that you are not in control. So right. The algorithm can change at any moment. Like maybe the algorithm today says, hey, for everybody that you follow, like show their posts at the top of the feed for the next week. Yeah. And then after that, you're just back in the weeds with everybody else. And so now you're trying to like constantly play this Instagram algorithm game to just like reach people.
Right.
And it's not that it's not if it was something you're going to do anyways, it's fine. But like, I'm just not a big proponent of like trying to build a following on social media for anything other than to just have credibility, not necessarily
Right.
to like get your work out.
So do you feel like email is still, like, I always worry if email has lost its effectiveness over the last couple of years, just because, you know, I mean, like, the reason I use social media was, yeah, because it builds credibility. It's a direct line to it. You know, I get one request when I approach people. I can do pretty much any request. Come to a show, listen to this song,
Yeah.
follow a Facebook event for my album. Like, I would be like, follow this Facebook event, you know. You get one request and people will usually grant it if they're impressed, right? An email address, I did do emails for a while. Maybe I wasn't using MailChimp. I wasn't doing that. But my worry was like, all right, well, I send out these emails and a majority of them people can just be like, I just don't want to read that right now. I just want to deal with that.
Well,
And
yeah,
I guess,
I mean, that's...
yeah.
That
Well, but
yeah, like it's you're always gonna have that struggle
Right.
with whether it's Instagram
Yeah,
or
yeah,
email
yeah.
or anything.
That's true.
That's a
That's a good point.
The other, I mean, I don't know, like people, I mean, I hear it all the time. People are just like, oh, like, you know, people don't look at emails or emails lost its effectiveness. But the thing is that okay, I mean, I guess it depends on like the demographic, but the thing is like,
Yeah.
people will just say anecdotally like, oh, well, young people don't use email anymore. But like anecdotally, I was overhearing a conversation at the office where like this group of people with kids were talking about how in Pasadena, like the kids get assigned an email address by the school and have to memorize their password.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I fucking hate email, but I still have to look at it, and usually, I mean, this is just me being like a procrastinating asshole, but like I'll see what's going on in the inbox, but I click on updates first.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, and the other thing is that there's a few, for people that really like your stuff, they're gonna read the email.
That's true.
And people who don't like your stuff, like, weren't gonna
check it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't gonna check on. Yeah, definitely.
It's you have the same I mean, I don't know about the same percentage, but you still have a percentage of, like, okay, so the total list or your total Instagram following is 100%, right?
Yeah.
You're still going to have a percentage of that, the vast majority, both on Instagram or email or Twitter or whatever, that never look at your stuff or don't really care or super lukewarm. That's like 80% of everyone's following, whether it's email or social.
Yeah.
And it's really like the 1% that super fucking likes you and the 1% that like can't stand you, and then everywhere else is like kind of like, it's like a bell-shaped curve.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But it's the same whether or not it was email or something else. The other thing that you might consider that I've had success with, but it's a little bit more difficult, is text message marketing. But people are like way more willing. People are way more willing to follow you on Instagram, but in my opinion, that's not as effective.
That's true.
They'll be more likely to, like, you know, send you maybe like put their email address in if you like assure them. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you're gonna spam me, blah blah blah. It's like, dude, like, I don't have to spam you in order for like you to have like a shit ton of that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that as much. Like, I haven't gotten people who are like, don't spam me as much. I have like the reason I've liked Instagram is because my demographic does skew lower. It skews between like,
Sure.
you know, like I have a demographic like 16-year-olds like my shit.
Then maybe they'll give you their phone number.
That's true. I think the phone number, like, I haven't thought about text message marketing like that before, but that's it. Are there like programs for that too, or like
There's
similar
services. The one that I've used is called Easy Texting, and it's
Can you spell that?
easy, like the letters easy texting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and the only thing about that is there's no real way to like automate. There's no real way to like automate it.
Yeah.
That yet, but maybe there will be later. But I've gotten text messages that I would consider like spam, that are like that, and I've also gotten text messages for like underground warehouse parties like that.
Right.
And those are the ones where I'm just like, oh, even if I'm not going, I'm still like, oh, hell yeah. Like,
oh yeah, you're buzzed for something that's
yeah,
gonna
I'm like,
happen.
this is cool. Like, this is a cool way to do it.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I guess at some point it's gonna be like, it's gonna be the same as email, maybe, where you're just.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you. I'm inundated with text messages and horrible. And I'm getting as bad with text messages. I'm getting as bad at responding to text messages as I am at responding to emails.
I think that's everybody, to be honest. Like, everybody's
Yeah.
kind of inundated with information.
Right.
So it's like very hard for people to like fire back a response because they're like, well, they're just overwhelmed and everybody's in a little bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's flaky. Everybody's overwhelmed. So it's like, in order to cut through the noise, you have to create stuff that's useful, entertaining, or engaging, or funny, or something.
Yeah.
But to me, like, being the problem with art or videos and music is that everything is just so subjective. So there's no like right or wrong. It's just like, oh, did people was somebody like totally into this, or just kind of what else about it?
Well, I've been doing this for a while, and it's like there's points where like I definitely know when. And that's not like it's just very obvious when there was somebody who told me like it's either great or it's shit, because that's how music is. Like, it's either great, like, wow, I love this, or it's good is not good enough, because there's a million people who are good. There's a million good songs. There's a few great ones, right? And having to be able to cut through that noise is a big thing. But again, my thing is like, you know, I don't even think great is this. I think if something's great, it's catchy, gets stuck in your head. You know, you're humming it while you go. You're excited after you listen to it. It gives you a feeling, and you want to hear it again. And you can see it on people's faces. There are people who, when I perform for, that are lukewarm. Like, there are few, just because of like I've performed a lot, and like there are a few people who are like, yeah, okay, you know, it's whatever. Like that was great. You know, that's cool. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll follow you. And I'll never hear from them again, right? But again, my thing is like, those people who are enthusiastic, what is the point in that chain that is deferring them from committing to it? Does that make sense?
Oh, well, I mean, it's the same. It just comes down to the bell-shaped curve again.
Yeah.
Right? Like, nobody is going to like. I mean, you could name like in your mind like the top 5, top 10 greatest songs of all time,
right?
And that would be different than everybody else's top 10. So there's no point in getting hung up on trying to create stuff that's like really good in the hopes that you're going to like move the needle and change it from, let's say, 10% of the people, 10% of the audience being like really into it, and 90% being kind of whatever. Like,
yeah,
who cares? Because if you look at your total audience, even if you changed it from 90-10 to 85-15, if your audience, if your core, like super hardcore audience of people who really, 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 really love your stuff is like 500 people, and then you increase that by like 50% or whatever, what do you have?
Right.
750 people? Like, it's still not that much.
Yeah.
Right? So my recommendation when it comes to like content, whether it's music or videos or art or whatever, is to try to do more of it, so that you can, because every time that you do it, you're going to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And when you look at
consistency
over a long period of time, because I mean, when you look at most, you know, really most respectable artists that are, you know, they have long careers.
Yeah.
You know, like people who make it it's not like they're not remembered because they put out like one great song or like one album. You know,
Yeah.
like of course you have one hit wonders, but like, you know, when you look at, I don't know, like the Beatles and the Radioheads and the Tools of the world, like you have like so much material over a long period of time, and that was only the stuff that they thought was good enough to show you, not all the garbage songs that they had to write and toss in order to get to the good ones.
Those 10 or 11 that are perfect for that album.
Yeah, like you're familiar with Weezer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you were following them after album 3.
Yeah.
But they did after they did the Green album, which was album 3, they did this other album. Afterwards, they did their next album was called Maladroit. Mm-hmm. And they did a summer of like free demos where and this was at a time around the Napster era, but certainly before YouTube, SoundCloud, before like torrents, before any of that stuff. Right. And they basically all summer.
That was in like 06, 07 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
Like MySpace days and shit.
Yes, MySpace days around there, but before it was like commonly accepted that you just were gonna put out all your music for free. These guys were.
Wait, I said before that.
Before that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So these guys.
I know the album you're talking about. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
These guys spent an entire summer recording demo after demo, and they would put them up online, and then next week there would be like a new set of songs. Yeah. So a lot of them were the same, but a lot of them got cut, and the ones that made it to the album got better and better and better and better.
Right.
And it was just fascinating as a fan to see that process in an era where nobody was doing that, because this was, you know, probably before or around the time that like Radiohead put out In Rainbows for free, and Nine Inch Nails was trying to do like the freemium model. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah, this was like so ahead of its time.
Well, then that's the other question I have is like, in terms of marketing, then is because everybody tells you, like I've worked with like publicists and shit like that, and most of them will tell you, you know, like there's these two ideas about like building like exclusivity and mystery around your personality and your persona, and I get that, but I feel like as an artist you have to be a little bit more open and vulnerable and like honest, you know, especially because if you're starting out, people need to know what the fuck is going on. They can't just like look up your phone and like, what the fuck is, I don't know who this is, like I'm not gonna look at it, you know. So my question is that like, do you feel, especially for somebody not necessarily starting out but like building, right, that if you have a little bit of credibility, do you think mystery around your persona and around your brand is a better tool than openness? Or like, for example, like Instagram, like they'll tell you, and I know we're going back to Instagram and social media, and you've said that it's not like a big thing, but for example, this is just an example of like, oh, these pictures have to be organized in a certain way, the color schemes have to be simple, like when you look at the layout, you know, you can't be, don't post stuff about that you would post on a personal Instagram, on your business Instagram, right? And part of me thinks like, well, if somebody's a fan of you as an artist, shouldn't you be posting stuff that is in your life? You know, shouldn't you be posting about what's going on outside of it? Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. What do you think is more effective in that thing, or is it just kind of open?
I think it also depends on like what field you're in. Like for example, like Banksy, right?
Yeah.
You know, that dude has built an entire career on this like mystery and this aura. But his work is also like, you know, ubiquitous everywhere. You know, maybe if you were like, I don't know, like a pro wrestler or something, you know. Right. But like I would say that like 80 to 90% of most like artists, whether they're musicians or they're doing videos or whatever, like don't benefit from any sort of aura of mystery if that was not what it was supposed to be in the first place. For example, like Daft Punk, right? Like there's certainly an aura of mystery around that, but their entire aesthetic and everything, essentially from the get-go, was built around this entire them. Like they're like a concept band, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever artist.
Like Gorillas or something. Yeah, they like the concept is this whole other like art thing that people buy into first,
right?
As opposed to like personally their lives and stuff like that.
Right. So I don't see an upside in trying to I don't see an upside in trying to be something that you're not, if that's not what the spirit of the art is.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't see when I see people that are trying to build their audience, or actually specifically in music, what I don't see is content about the creation of the music or just videos about them. Like, for example, I went to Splash House, this pool party festival, and James Murphy from LCD Sound System was playing a 5-hour set on vinyl. And
that's fucking lit,
right? Like,
yeah,
like
that is.
I'm a huge James Murphy fan, and
just the fact that you said on vinyl, is No Serato is a whole fucking ordeal to do, because it means he has to go through he has to have 2 of every record. Yeah. He has to have.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have to be on that level in order to create additional content that isn't just like a SoundCloud track.
Right.
Like, there's instances, maybe the only guy I've seen do it recently is like maybe Deadmau5, where he's like streaming his creation process on Twitch.
Right.
Or before other stuff or other platforms before Twitch. And just having more, even like interviews, podcasts, videos on YouTube about, I just feel like people that are in music they only focus on just the music. But in today's world, it's not just about the music.
Well, the other issue
people will find you in so many different ways.
Right, and also tell me if I'm interrupting you too much right now. But it's the thing is that especially going to Berklee, and I know I talk about that a lot, but that's Berklee's it's a popular music school. It's different from Juilliard and all these other schools because it is specifically based on feeding the industry musicians, right? A lot of the engineers you'll find, a lot of the musicians on tracks that you're hearing on the radio and everything like that are from Berklee. A lot of my graduating class is writing for Billboard right now. Like the Camila Cabello song with Quavo is my friend Sasha, like a lot of the Third Story, the backing band for Chance, is my friend Elliot, like a lot of those people are there. And when you go to Berklee and when you are around musicians a lot, the biggest pratfall you can get into, and I got into it for a while, was constantly just a lot of artists go through it where you're just bitching about, I'm making music and it's hard. And a lot of times you're told we get it, you're making music and it's hard, what else do you have, right?
You mean as a starving artist?
The starving artist song, the struggle rapper song.
Okay.
Man, I gotta go. That's every. There's a way to do it where it's interesting and you're feeding what you are to an extent. If you're watching a stand-up comedy set and the comedian is only doing jokes about, man, it's really fucking hard going to open mics, no one's gonna relate to that.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about everything around it, his rent, how he's paying the bills, him going to work, all of that makes up that image for people already, right? And there's a way to do it. So I think a lot of musicians, we're told, don't talk about the creation process, we've heard enough of it. And you get past it, because it is a problem for a while. Even before going there, when I was putting stuff out, a lot of it was, because I talked with Mike about it, and he was like, a lot of this is grit, but it's all you rapping about rapping. After a while, you rapping about rapping, it's so meta no one cares. But if you're rapping about like, oh man, like that's a big reason why I left like fighting and rapping for a while. It's just because like it's great, but it wasn't like inspired. I wanted to talk about, man, I'm Muslim in America and it's fucking hard. I have student loans and it's hard. My friends are black and they're getting shot. It's hard. Sometimes I want to rap about I want to go and fucking get drunk and it's hard. You know, I want to talk about that shit. But, you know, like I think after a while you push all the stuff about you making music behind you think nobody cares about it. But then when you have the skill to discuss things with nuance, maybe you bring it back. I don't know. Like I always feel like people, I worry. You have a point. I'm just saying like that's I think why a lot of musicians don't immediately like go for the interview or go for the behind the scenes thing, like because they're like, well, you know, the content should speak for itself, I guess, you know.
The content can totally speak for itself. But I think of everybody that's in art or entertainment as having to be multidisciplinary now.
Right.
So if your main thing is music, then certainly the music should speak for itself.
Right.
However, when you're on stage at the highest level,
Right.
it's, you know, like when you look at like the EDCs and Coachellas of the world.
Right.
For sure, the music is a ginormous part of it,
Right.
but there's a visual element as well.
Oh, 100%.
So, because even if you're successful to the highest level, to the highest degree, you're still gonna need another component to the music
to drive it forward. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be you personally. You just have to know that at the highest level, that will be an issue. So either you have to put some thought into it,
Right.
or you need somebody on your team that you work with that puts some thought into it.
Right.
So when you think of it that way, now we're not just musicians. Now we have to think, all right, well, what are the visuals going to look like? And now if we're going to think about visuals, it's like, okay, well, where's a good place that people watch visual stuff? I don't know, YouTube or Twitch, Facebook Live, whatever. So now we're not just in the lab, like, you know, cutting hot tracks or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
That's how all of us sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We're in the lab cutting hot tracks.
Yep. That's how I do it.
I believe you.
Yeah. So when you think of it that way, then it's like, okay, well, that means that I don't just need to be on iTunes and SoundCloud and Spotify. People might find me on YouTube.
Yeah.
People might find me on Instagram or
Twitter. But then that's what I'm saying. It's like, what's your hub? Because like you have
hub should be you.com.
Yeah. See, but like even for music, that's kind of tough because like everybody's musician pages are now like landing pages for those are very different. Like if you go to macmiller.com or you go to kendricklamar.com, they're more like just press kits than they are. I mean, like back in the day, you went to like yourfavoriteband.com. There was like a forum and you can discuss things about your band. There was news. But like now everybody hears everything. And their Instagrams and all that kind of stuff are there. And I see some bands with like popping Instagram followings, but less Facebook followers and everything like that. Some people with insane YouTube followings, but less followers in other places.
Oh, well, yeah. You're always going to have one. Like for us, right? We have the website, and we have YouTube, Twitch.
I have
Twitter.
another question after we're done with this. Like I have a big one after that.
You're always gonna have one channel or whatever that has your biggest base.
Right.
So maybe that's the hub.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's YouTube, but that's not. I mean, we're sending people from YouTube to our website so they can subscribe.
Right.
So, but that's because YouTube for us is customer acquisition. So whether you were using YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever, that should be your customer acquisition to send them somewhere to collect their info or to sell them something or to collect their info and then sell them something.
Do you feel you have to pump money into these like media platforms, like? Because I know, like for example, Facebook. You have to pump money if you want. Like, and you're right. The algorithm changes a lot, but in order to acquire on Facebook, you have to pump money into it. I don't know how YouTube works or anything like that.
Yeah, like there is something to be said. I was listening to this podcast, the Digital Marketer podcast, and obviously, like these people are they're like living it.
Yeah.
And it was a topic of conversation on one of the episodes, and they were just like, yeah, like organic social is dead. If you're trying to like really do stuff on Facebook or Instagram, you're gonna have to buy ads. And I think that there's probably a lot of, I mean, I don't disagree. So that's why, personally for us, we haven't been allocating resources or time to building social in any sort of like active way.
Right.
This week we have somebody who's going to be working on Facebook specifically to try different like types of posts and whatnot. But it's all been totally automated for a while, just because like it hasn't seemed worth it to spend time trying to like get people engaged on social, because who cares? Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, they're just gonna like your page, and then it's gonna get buried with everything else.
Yeah. So, but now I don't know. I mean, this dude he's going to be experimenting with like creating different like super short clips or creating like images and stuff. And I'm just like, cool, that's fine. Let's do it. We can have a more engaging Facebook page.
Right.
Then what?
Yeah, exactly. Then how do you do that? My other thing was like you were talking about like a team and stuff like that in general, about how you're building it. So like when you're starting out, having a group of people who are like, I mean, like I've tried to build like a team in terms of like, all right, well, I have to make content, right? And then somebody who is on the edge of like, okay, you can think of marketing strategies and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times it's fallen towards me because either people aren't super dedicated or they're half dedicated. You guys have like a team at this point, and you have people who you've worked with over a period of years, right? Like when you were building all of that, like was it just on you guys? Were you guys still like, even looking back at it, were you guys doing most of the work, and then like as soon as you started paying people, did it come up, or did you have people who were like, I believe in this well, and they were working for you effectively? Do you kind of see what I'm saying? Is like, do you have like investing money is an important thing, but like, do you have to wait until capital is invested to really form a team effectively that'll get your product or message out there?
No, I don't think so. I think in order to build a team, you need, in the early stages, generally money is not an option. Right. Let's just assume that money, I mean, maybe you can buy somebody lunch or something, or, but essentially it still can be done with no money, but what you need is a worthy cause and a strong network. Because, like, I'm writing
this down. Sorry.
That's okay, we're recording this.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that works for me.
When I first started making content, it was recording shitty metal bands.
Sick.
Yeah, as an audio engineer. And then I started
You did audio engineering?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
I mean, I didn't like go to school for it, but
you don't need to go to school for it. You just have to fucking learn how to. Yeah, you're doing it now. Yeah,
doing it now. Yeah. And then there became an opportunity to help with the Family Fun Arcade ranking battles. And these guys were in a pre-YouTube era. These guys were starting to do tournament videos, but they didn't know anything about audio. Right. And so helping them with audio was like child's play compared to trying to record like a full
drum
band
set
with a bunch of 5 different
guitar,
people. Yeah, it's crazy. So this was much easier. And then through that, I started to edit videos edit the tournament videos, do all the audio, do the whole thing. And then, because it was comparatively so much easier to just do podcasts, then me and Arlith had the idea to do a podcast for Dr. Sub-Zero, which was essentially the first American Third Strike commentator.
Yeah. And
through that, it wasn't about me, it was just about him. I was just recording and producing it. And then over time once that show died, then I started to do my own show, my own podcast. And I had done, I don't know, like 10, 12 episodes before I had Mike on. And, it was just like, he was just a guest on the podcast. And then I did a bunch of other episodes and then had him back on again. And then over time, it became clear that, like, he and I saw the fighting game world the same way. And it was always fun to work with him. So once we started to do more stuff together, then it was like easy.
Yeah.
Because once there's not just you, and you have somebody else that you're like consistently working with,
right,
it's easier to find other people. So we had started by doing the original cross-counter YouTube show for Machinima, and then in Hollywood, and then on the way back, stop at my place and chill for a bit so that Mike didn't have to drive home in traffic. And then one day, because we were bored, I was like, let's try to just like play online and record it.
Yeah.
And that was how Excellent Adventures was born.
Yeah.
Just by accident.
Yeah.
And then after doing like 5 or 6 episodes of that, which was number one, super easy to produce because there was zero editing, because I was doing it we were doing it all live. Like the audio was just going straight into the capture card.
Yeah.
After doing it and having success, then our friend Steve, who we had both knew individually, separately, offered to help shoot it.
Oh, shit.
And at the time, in 2010, having like a big fancy DSLR was like a huge deal.
Yeah.
But even though, he was basically like willing to work for free and or cheap for like a long time, which is why he's one of our, has been one of our partners like from the get-go.
Yeah.
But even though he had offered to help me with my stuff before, and I'm sure he had offered the same help to Mike, we didn't really know what to do with Steve. But then once we had started work together, Steve was a natural fit. And then consistently throughout the years is always, number one, been the voice of reason, and number two, taking care of production when it comes to the Excellent Adventures show, as well as like a ton of other projects.
Right.
But I don't think that would have happened were I not already like trying to, it's not that I was doing it on purpose, but I was already producing like this work consistently.
Right.
And over time, like FFA ranking battles, editing those videos, doing the Dr. Sub-Zero show, and then finally doing my own show, 12 episodes deep or something like that. Then I had Mike on for the first time.
It took just time of you like just pursuing this
of just
mission.
doing because before that I was just doing the entire thing myself.
Right, and you just I got you. See, that makes more sense. Like the idea of like trying to make the mission speak for itself, and then people come on, as opposed to like,
even in the early days, once we had launched Cross Counter as a channel, we had built momentum, and then were able to get people such as Boss Logic, who he just designed the original Cross Counter logo.
Right.
He did a ton of art.
That guy's super nice just in general, so he'll do shit for you if he believes in you, yeah.
Right, and that's the thing, like the more that you're doing your stuff and the more that people can get on board with what you're doing, the easier it will be to attract these collaborators. Right. And they're not necessarily and it doesn't necessarily have to be about money. Like, for example, the guy, I mentioned that we're trying stuff with Facebook this week. The guy who's doing it is this kid from the Philippines who messaged me on Instagram and was like, yo, can you be my marketing mentor? I need, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I need help with this stuff. And I looked at his work. I'm like, dude, this kid is super talented. And so we built a relationship, and then he just started to like make designs for us. And now he's over here temporarily.
Yeah.
And he's interning for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't like, sometimes people like hit you up and they want you to like pay them to do something. Or
they want you to do something for them to propel them, yeah.
Right, but the most talented people that I've found, at least artistically, I don't know, but those people have always come to me and offered to do stuff for me.
Well, just in terms of they also want to learn. I feel like it's more like...
Well, that too. So, like, I don't know, I'm not sure how that would apply with what you're doing, but I have a feeling that if you were to... And this is why, like, when people are starting out with content, I suggest trying to create stuff that's useful.
Yeah.
Because to you, I mean, what NLE do you, or what do you use to produce? Like, you use like Logic or?
I mean, yeah, I use like Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton.
Right. Okay. Right. So you know how to use all three major,
DAWs. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's bound to be a ton of people out there that are trying to learn one or all three of those.
Yeah.
And you likely have some expertise in all of them that can help people that are just starting out get their training wheels on.
But does that make you, I've thought about that, but I worry if that sidelines me to an extent. Like, I thought about doing a thing where it was like, it's corny. I thought about doing like a small little video series called Zaid Talks. It's like TED Talks, whatever, fuck it. So like I wanted to do that, and it's like a small like tutorial on something, or it's a small idea or a concept on something, about like, why you're not. There's a lot of lessons I've learned about like, why you aren't good at this vocation that you're doing. It's because of time management. All these small little lessons that you learn over time. And
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because why
would that be sidetracked?
Well, you want to, like, part of me wants to be the artist, and my worry is like, okay, if I'm doing a tutorial on something, are people just coming there for the tutorial, and then it's like, well, fuck this shit, or are they coming there for the? Does that make sense? It's like
there's a reason to separate.
Right. Okay.
And just like, for example, like with this, I don't really care. Number one, I don't know how I'm gonna put this out, but let's say that it was like let's say it was.
It's gonna be interesting.
Let's say it was just like the Cross Counter podcast, which we already have. Of course, we just want to like focus on just being the artist or this or that, but there's got to be balance, and I don't think there's any harm in putting out stuff that's useful, because that can lead to credibility and opportunities that you may not have otherwise, which can lead you to other opportunities that can directly benefit,
that's a good point, yeah.
What you're doing, because there's no, I don't know. I mean, even here we go.
Okay.
Think about this, right? Cien, 2013 Street Fighter 4 world champion.
Right.
Even though he became Evo champion that year, there's still tons of videos, including one that we did, of him taking time to show other people how to be better at Street Fighter.
Right.
From that era.
That's true.
He was also writing stuff in his blog.
Right.
And he was still the best that year.
That's true, but I'm saying but Street Fighter is the thing with Street Fighter compared to other things. I get the idea of sponsorships and everything like that. You have to have a personality, but Street Fighter is measured response, right? Like in a game of Street Fighter, you either win or you lose. A lot of times, art is a little more subjective in terms of number. Or
no, what I'm saying is that even somebody who was the best in their field that year was taking the time to create content to help.
Good point. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So, because we only have so much decision-making power every day, and we might only have so much creative power in our brain every day when we wake up. So you could spend all day in the lab cutting your hot tracks like I do, but then when you're done, there's still another part of your brain that is essentially likely to be unused.
Right.
So it might seem like you're taking away time, but you're really not, because you're using another part of your brain that can bring in more people, that can help more people, that can eventually bring in more opportunities.
It's like an untapped resource that you can.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I think that idea is great as long as you can execute it in a way that doesn't take a whole lot of time. Like, for example, if you were to spend half a day on making this video and planning it out, shooting it, editing, upload, tag, write the title, post on social, make an Instagram post, send out a mass email, now you're looking at like a full day.
Yeah.
And then when the video goes up and you get like 50 views, you're like, well, it was fun. But how long can you it's not very likely that you'll be able to continue investing that amount of time for such small return over a period of weeks, months, years. So that's why I recommend when people are getting started with content, they're trying to just focus on consistency, which means that if you had to do this every week for a year,
right,
you need to get that full day or even half day down to like 30 minutes. So that
30 minutes.
Yeah. Because that
so for producing the content and editing and everything.
The whole thing. Because it's much more sustainable to invest 30 minutes every week.
4 hours.
Because life happens.
Comes up, yeah.
And the other thing is that you might be able, depending on what you're doing, you might be able to bang out a bunch of them at once.
That's true.
Like specifically with Excellent Adventures, we were shooting once a month, and then we have content for every week.
Right. Well, then that's the other thing is so are you saying that in terms of content, you're not like, I know that worry about like oversaturating with content, and like I've had this varying thing in my head where it's like whether like that's really a thing. Like I know it's a thing, but like especially for normal artists, I don't know if that's an actual thing, because like
I don't think it's a thing.
Yeah, well, because if you're new and if you're trying to get yourself out there, isn't the point to give as much content as possible?
Yes.
And put stuff out. Like I toyed with earlier this year. I had this publicist who I just really did not enjoy working with all that much. He's a good guy, but I didn't enjoy working with him. Where it was like, I said I want to release a song a week, because it takes me typically like I write a lot. I write every day, write 4 or 5 songs a day. Like you're constantly working, constantly you're going, and when you release content, it feels good because you're like, well, I put something out.
Yeah.
Put something out again. Put something out again. So like I had this schedule where I was gonna go do that, and they were like, don't do that. Why? Well, because if you do that, people aren't going to care that you just put out another song. There's just going to be another song there, right? And I've kept hearing this debate over and over again, like, wait for like a couple weeks before you put something out. Wait, like,
Were these people that say that, are they people that have been involved in music when music was sold on like physical media?
No, they're not. There are people who are
Did they
involved.
go to school for music?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I'll give you. Yeah. Well, but it's a constant thing in content where they're saying like you should hold. That's the thing. That's what I meant by the mystery thing. It's like if you should withhold some of your content, and because there is something to be said about blowing up a big release, right? You know. But my thought is always: is it better to just blow up that big release or do a bunch of smaller releases, and then when the big release comes along?
How would you even know what a big release is until it's like
until
out?
You have
Until it's like gaining traction.
That's a good point. Yeah.
There's no like I mean maybe I just don't understand anything about like pop music, but I don't. I mean, you can.
It's just a giant like for example, I went to Atlanta and like there was a guy named J Dubs who did stuff for Puffy, and he was saying like it was in March of that year, and March like 18th, and he said I have 90 songs done that are ready to drop, and I'm like, well, it's not even 90 days in the year. You have 90 songs fully produced, ready to drop, and then I was like, all right, well, I gotta make a song a day. I have to constantly work and stuff like that, and I like that. And I like the idea of like constantly releasing content.
Yeah.
My worry is like not servicing the marketing for that content well enough, or like if the consistency will just take care of that. Like, oh, I'm constantly releasing content.
Consistency takes care of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that every time you go through the process, start to finish, of taking like a concept in your head and then making the song and then mixing, mastering, render, upload, release. Every time you do it, you're going to get a little bit better at every element of it.
Yeah.
And then the better that you get at certain parts of it, the easier it can be to delegate some of those parts. Yeah. I mean, you know, obviously you can delegate everything from the creation of your beat, right?
Right.
So like every element of the process, aside from, I don't know, your original idea, can be delegated.
Right.
So I'm a proponent of trying to do the process as much as possible, because the more that you do it, the closer, number one, like the more you're going to build your audience, like just a little bit every time. And the more you do it, the better it gets. Like if you think about where you are now artistically versus where you were when you wrote like your first like 5 songs.
Yeah.
Right? Like it should take you, it's like we have this idea funnel and all the shitty ones are at the top. So we got to like funnel them out, and then
you get to the really, really good stuff. Yeah. So that way it's easier to.
So I'm not, especially in an era where like, okay, number one, we're not reliant on physical distribution of CDs. Number two, we're not even reliant on getting placement on Spotify or iTunes because YouTube and SoundCloud exist.
Well, that's a little bit untrue, because like a lot of SoundCloud's like very close to bankruptcy. And like it's not doing well. And then like YouTube's doing great, but like for a lot of artists, like getting on a Spotify playlist a lot of times makes or breaks you. Like getting put on a Spotify playlist is a huge boon. You'll get hundreds of thousands of plays.
For sure, but you can't control. You can't
control that. Yeah.
And there's still a lag between finishing, unless they've changed something. There's still a lag between like having the finished file and it being immediately available on Spotify.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Like it still has to go through all those channels.
Yeah, and SoundCloud and YouTube is boom, instant. Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't worry about any of those things, because every time you do it, you're gonna get a little bit better. Yeah. And you know, if you go through the entire process every week from now until this time next year, like you're gonna have 52 new songs.
That's true.
And like the people, you're still gonna have, like, you know for sure you're gonna be better because you just did it 50 times. So
right.
Of course you're gonna be better.
Right.
And number two, the people who really do like your stuff are gonna be like, Yes. And they're
It's
gonna
true.
and people will be impressed by consistency
The volume
and dedication.
you got, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't see any downside to cranking out more stuff if you have like
Stuff to crank out.
stuff to crank out. I mean, obviously, maybe you don't always have that. And the other thing is you may be on like a time frame because you never know when you're gonna go. And that's where we can end.
Yeah.
Any last anything that we didn't cover before we wrap?
No, my Instagram and shit.
All right.
If this is going up.
Yep. Where do people go?
To find my music, you can go to soundcloud.com/Zaid T Music, ZAID T Music. Instagram, same thing, ZAID T Music. Twitter, ZAID, everything ZAID T Music. If you search it, you'll find me and all that shit. And I have an album coming out next week, so.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. See you next time.